Hi, guys. I am Callie the Kitchen Cop, and I have been asked to let you guys know what I eat in a day or in a week or whatever. And so I wanted to do a little Q&A and share with you what I've been eating lately. And it's been a little bit different because 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a little bit of a health scare, and I don't want to share about that quite yet. I will soon, probably with my newsletter. So be sure to sign up for that. It's kellythekitchencop.com/free. And anyway, so I'll share about that soon. But because of that, I've kind of gotten back on track with eating more low carb. And I've always kind of, gone in and out of that. I will link below to the story of when I lost like 20 pounds around 2020. And I can tell you about that. And then since then, I've just kind of slowly put a little bit more of that weight back on, not a lot. And I wasn't really that worried about it until something that happened recently. And it made me want to kind of get back on track. But I didn't want to go completely like no carbs, like some people do. And because I just feel like, knocking out an entire food group is never good because when I do introduce it back, then my body doesn't know what to do with it. I want to be able to still eat some, but just not as much as I was eating before. And to just kind of keep a good eye on my blood sugars. My family has a lot of diabetes, and I just wanted to avoid that as well. So, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I started kind of paying more attention to what I've been doing, and it's been going pretty well. It's such a head game. I cannot believe what a head game it is, you guys. And so I've been using this app that my sister told me about. I could put a link to that below too. But it basically helps you to count your macros. And when I was doing really good in 2020 and keeping a closer eye on things, I didn't do any of that. And it was pretty easy. All I did was just eat less, like I just did something different every day is kind of what I said. And like instead of having two helpings, I would have one. And I just, tried to make it something that would last. And it did for the most part. I stuck with quite a bit of it. But, slowly I want some of that cookie dough or whatever. This time I just thought I would try this just because it's something different and it kind of sounded like a challenge to me. And so every day, basically what you do is you try to keep your macros at 70% fat and 20% protein and 10% carbs. So I started doing that. And, at first my family's like, why are you being so careful? Like, you don't have to be that specific. And I'm like, no, I don't have to be, but it's kind of a fun challenge and it's working for me. So I just kept doing it. So anyway, I have been logging what I've been eating every day in this app. So I am going to jump on right now. Okay, so I can go back to the day that I started doing this was, I think, the 12th of August. That day, I didn't have breakfast. And for lunch, I had my favorite salad, which is on my blog. I can link to it. It is the one that has lots of greens and some bacon. And I threw some cherry tomatoes in there too from our garden, a couple fried eggs on top. And then, sorry, I got Invisalign a few weeks ago. I'm still getting used to it. So if I'm talking funny, that's why. And then this really good dressing that cuts cravings big time because it fills you up. It's made with bacon grease and Dijon mustard and apple cider vinegar and fresh garlic. And it's so good, you guys. I love this recipe. Anyway, that was my breakfast, or no, I'm sorry, lunch. And then for dinner that night, we had chicken tacos. So for the family, they had tortillas. I just had mine without a tortilla. I just had the shredded chicken and the cheddar and some sour cream and lettuce. And that was it for that day. And let's see what my macros were that day. I believe I stayed right on. So for that day, my macros were 19% protein, so almost 20, 74% fat. So that's 4% over in my fat, and 7% for my carbs. So just 3% under for that. Let me see what my calories were for that day. So I don't even know how my calorie goal went into my app. I think it has something to do with when I first started, they probably asked for my weight and my weight goal or whatever. And I think that's where that came from. But it has it set for 1,400 calories a day, and I'm not even sure why. But that's been working out fine. I mean, I am over some days, but I shoot mostly to get my macros right. But anyway, that day I only had a little over 1,000 calories. So now let's look at the next day. For lunch, I had leftover chicken tacos. And then I also had some rice crackers. I had just five crackers with some cheese that I love, that wine flavored cheese, which is so good. So I had that for lunch. And then for dinner, trying to tell by what, oh, we had skirt steak. That was really easy to eat without any carbs. We must have had caramelized onions with that too. And looks like a salad. I had 2 ounces of Pinot Grigio with dinner. And looks like that's what I had that night. And then let's look and see what my macros were for that night. I was over 2% on protein at 22%. I was 72% fat, so over 2%, but then 6% for carbs, so under by 4%. I don't know how many of these you guys want me to go through. Maybe I'll just try to go through this a little bit faster. For breakfast the next day, I had eggs with cheese. For dinner, I had 6 crackers and cheese, a quarter cup of this keto snack mix that I got at Costco. Oh, then we had shepherd's pie for dinner. So I just ate mostly the bottom and just a little, like a quarter cup is all of mashed potatoes. So I'm just trying to eat really limited carbs, but not no carbs. And that recipe is on my blog too. I'll try to remember to put links to these in case you guys want to. But that one wasn't really a low carb recipe because it's got mashed potatoes on top. The next day for lunch, I didn't have breakfast. A lot of times I never eat 3 meals. Sometimes I eat 1 meal and sometimes 2 meals. So for lunch that day, oh, I had one of my favorite keto snacks. Like I found some healthier, better for you lunch meat and wrapped up cream cheese and green onions and cherry tomatoes in there. So I had that. Plus I had chicken breakfast sausage from Costco. For dinner, we had broccoli with cheese sauce. I made some keto cheese sauce. And then we had, must be, I had leftover flank steak maybe, and a caprese salad. Why did I have honey? Oh, the flank steak that we had the other night. We have this recipe that you just put a tiny little bit of honey in it and a bunch of basil and herbs and stuff. It's so good. I think I have it on my blog somewhere. Anyway, that was dinner that night. I cut up like part of a peach, like maybe even like a third of a peach, I would say. And I put in a little bowl, 1 tablespoon of heavy cream and a half a teaspoon of maple syrup. And then, so it's like peaches and cream. Oh, it was so good, you guys. And just that little tiny bit of maple syrup was plenty. And it was like 9 calories is all. It was 2 carbs for a half a teaspoon, but still, it wasn't bad. We went out to dinner that night and I had called the chef ahead of time to make sure that he could make me this dish that I like at this restaurant without any seed oils. And they said they could. So when I got there, it wasn't quite as awkward to say, hey, I talked to the chef and, I can't have seed oils. And so I had this fish that I like. It's walleye and it comes with mashed potatoes. I had like literally 2 little bites of that. And it also came with asparagus, which was really good. And I had 1 ounce of this Chianti wine. It's easy because with this, you can kind of figure out what your day is going to look like and what you need, what you need to get more of. My sister, every morning, she sits down before she eats anything. She plans her whole day out and what she's going to eat. And then she knows she's going to hit everything exact and she'll just keep playing with it until she can get her percentages right and her calories right. And so she knows what she's going to eat every day before she does. And I'm not maybe being that particular, but in the morning I'll get up and a lot of times I'm not hungry till later. And then once I'm hungry, I'll just see what's in the fridge or, make something if I feel like it, if I want eggs or whatever. And then I try to kind of meal plan once a week on Sunday nights, and I figure out my whole week. Like, when am I going to play pickleball? When am I going to go to mass? When can I go for a bike ride? Or try to get my exercise figured out. And at that time, I'll sit down and figure out my meal plan. And then I would be like, okay, what can I feed the family to build them up? And then how can I adapt it? And I really have not felt deprived or whatever because it's like I said, it's such a head game. Like I know now this is what I need to do. And I'm not having 0 carbs. I'm still having a little bit. I just really need to be more careful. And I'll tell you more about why later. So that's what I have eaten in the past 2 or 2.5 weeks. And I hope that's helpful for you. If you have any questions, just leave them below and I will get back to you. Thanks, guys.